Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Peak Results Academy. I'm your host, Rich Fournier, and in this episode, I sit down with Mark Thiessen. Now, Mark Thiessen is a commercial real estate broker with RE/MAX Professionals located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, Mark has been in the commercial real estate industry for the better part of 26 years, and his expertise spans all sectors of commercial real estate in Winnipeg. Now, he's attained some pretty amazing results in that market. He was a top 5 commercial associate from 2011 to 2012. In 2010 to 12, he was top 11 worldwide. So stay tuned to hear how you can create peak results in the commercial real estate market.
Have you ever wondered why some people thrive in all areas of their life? Welcome to the Peak Results Academy podcast with your host, Rich Fournier. Each week, we interview industry experts who consistently dominate in the fields of health, business, and beyond. Our mission is to share their personal struggles and strategies so that you can create your own peak results. Welcome.
Well, hello, everyone. Rich Fournier here from the Peak Results Academy podcast, and I'm super excited today to have a guest from Western Canada with us today, Mark Thiessen. He's a commercial real estate agent out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, Richard. Thanks very much for having me.
And Mark, before we get started, as you are quite aware, this podcast is about trying to figure out why someone has created a peak result in their respective business. And I just want to maybe share a few highlights of your career. It's not everything by any means, but just want to share with our listeners some of the highlights. I mean, you've attained some pretty good numbers over the course of a 30-year career in commercial real estate. You were the number 1 agent by volume with RE/MAX Professionals in 2016 through 2019. Top 5 Western Canada commercial associates for 2010, 11, 12, 16 through 19, and top 10 worldwide in 2010, 11, and 12. Some pretty amazing results, Mark.
Thank you. I'm pretty proud of that. I always say that if that can be done from little old Winnipeg, just over 1.1 million people, I'm pretty proud of that. You
should be. Most of my experience, of course, has been in the residential real estate market. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation today to learn about commercial real estate. And my experience and what I understand is that very few people make it in the commercial arena. It's super difficult in the beginning. You don't make any money in the beginning. You don't get paid for a long time. So I was wondering if you don't mind going back to the beginning and letting us know, did you have a career before commercial real estate, or and when did you get into the commercial real estate game?
Yeah, I really didn't have a career before I got into commercial real estate. I started when I was 22 and was very fortunate that I had a family mentor who was in commercial real estate, who had done residential for 2 years and crossed over and became an absolute enigma in our province and was president of the Canadian Real Estate Association at one point. And the reason I find it so fortuitous is that I asked him a lot of questions, didn't necessarily go to the right firm at first, but asked him a lot of questions and got into commercial real estate because it excited me. I wasn't looking at the lifestyle of the Monday to Friday and having evenings and weekends off. And my skill set is really built for commercial real estate. And that's the real fortunate bounce that I got by lucking into getting into commercial real estate.
Did you have an educational background to understand balance sheets and how to really understand if this was a good situation for somebody?
That's the funny thing about my upbringing is my parents were both teachers. I called them teachers and counterfeiters. We moved a lot, but they were both teachers. One had a master's, one had a PhD, and I was being tested from a very young age, doing math at 3 and reading before that, and doing this SAT and doing tests all my life. I never really had to work at school, and kind of by the end of school, kind of hated school. But they had taught me so much, and we're book smart people and not people smart people, I would say, as we are. But I look back, especially now since my dad has passed away, at how many takeaways and how many skills they gave me. Not wanting to be like them, but also wanting to build on the education that they gave me. They gave me an immense vocabulary, a will to work, the value of a dollar. Anytime they loaned me money for anything I wanted to buy, there was an interest rate attached, and you had to work for it. Nothing was given to me.
And when you got started in commercial real estate, like, how does one start in commercial real estate? Like, I have an idea, residential, we help people do that, but what do you do to start off in the commercial real estate game?
My mentor was at the winter of his career and basically just doing arbitrations and that kind of thing. And he had his license parked with a certain broker, and I asked him these questions over a period of time, and he said, just go talk to the broker and sign up. And so I didn't look around and meet with a number of different firms. I just went to work there, and had been offered opportunities in life insurance, which is kind of the same thing. I liken it to commercial real estate, that you're building an annuity, a snowball that grows bigger and bigger as you go on, but you start off starving. And the difference between life insurance and real estate, I felt I was selling a tangible. But I just went to work, and I still don't think there's necessarily a training program in commercial real estate. But my boss said to me the first day, there's a phone and the phone book. There used to be phone books, and we'll see you at lunch. And I think I made $11,000 my first year. So it was a learning experience. I wasn't even very assertive, if we had to order pizza or a bill collector was calling, not that happened all that often, I would get my wife to call. And in that first year, she walked into my office one day and heard me talking to a client, and realized pretty quickly that I had understood that I had to change my demeanor and take an active role in this, or it wasn't going to happen.
So you get the phone book. So I'm still trying to understand, who are you calling and what do you think?
The way they tell you to start off in commercial real estate, and I don't know if it's changed, is start phoning people and finding out when their lease expires and get details about their lease. And if you can help them, and start diarizing that. And that's a pretty long road, because their lease may be 3 years away or 2 years away. And in that first year or first couple of months, I'd done sales all my life, but I don't know that I believed in myself. How was someone going to choose me to be their representative to work on their lease renewal?
Right. And, self-identity, or the self-image that we hold of ourselves, is the catalyst for everything. And did you recognize that about yourself, or did someone point it out to you?
I took certain initiatives myself when I realized that my boss was going to do his own work and not assist me at all. In fact, once I was in his car at a meeting of mine. I brought him along to a meeting of mine, and he stopped off on a client's on the way back and said, just wait in the car. I said, well, what am I going to learn if I'm waiting in the car? So I went to my real estate board and tapped into a few different resources. The first two things that I did that were most meaningful for me is I studied the 4 personality types, which has been talked about by many methods, the Herman Brain Dominance Institute test and others. There's only 4 different types of people. Firstly, understand who the people are that I might be selling to when I could sell something, and then there's 47 different methods of closing. And I studied those, and the ones that were most appropriate to real estate. There are ones that don't work. The puppy dog close, take it home for a couple of weeks and see if you like it. And doesn't work too well in commercial real estate.
Definitely not. And so so it sounds like you started off very early on a path of personal and self-development.
Absolutely. I hit the books, and I've always had an inner drive, and just really reached in on that. I wasn't very experienced in business. I was able to sell things and have a virtual idyllic memory. So I've retained everything I've learned and could memorize everything I've ever learned. And I really just spent time on that. I didn't have clients that were asking me to show them properties or to meet with them to discuss their lease. I went system by system, identifying different streets and hitting every business and every building in blocks and identifying that. And then I spent time hitting the books and I guess really doing that education part of how I could make myself better.
There's a gap between knowing something and doing something. There's always a problem in the execution of an idea. So how were you able to bridge the gap from a personality of maybe more inclined to educate versus do?
Well, it's really, I think, a confidence factor, and I think that's what becomes the strength as you move forward on a career like this. If you've took the time to learn things, my parents being educators, I always said, education's largely a waste of time. Experience is everything, and it's the experiences and the mistakes that you make along the way that really form who you are if you're willing to take notice of them.
Do you, inside your business today, do you have a formalized customer-client relationship management system to really keep yourself organized on where clients are today, future people, or is it just, you've been in the game so long that people are just calling you?
It's the one thing I regret that, if I started my business today, I would record everyone of value and have that computer Rolodex of the people. I have an incredible memory. I know all of my phone numbers. I know all of my clients' phone numbers. I know their wife's phone numbers. I know I can memorize everything. So really, it's my brain centrifugally going around and catching the details, touching base with people, which the internet in so many ways has made so much easier. But it's really, if I get hit by a bus, I guess the business isn't there. But my phone, based on the way I treat people, the honesty, I never have to look back on my notes and reflect on what did I say, because I know what I would have said. It would have been the same thing I would say today. And referrals from other agents and people calling me directly. It's a funny thing when people call from Google or you could come up on the page better. Your SEOs aren't working. I says, well, I actually want to get fewer calls and better calls. If you can put me through to that department, I'm interested. But I don't want my phone to ring more often.
Got it. If you were to give someone advice today to start off in the commercial real estate market, what would be the top 3 things that you can give them today to get started? And to actually,
I think it's a different era today to get started, and most people aren't willing to do this. I've ran with partnering with deals with various people in the office that really want a home run over the fence with the baseball rolling through the parking lot at Fenway, and that's not the way it works. I think 2 things. Number one is most people try to transverse from residential to commercial, and they're familiar with sales. They may have some clients that are renovators or flippers, and that's an okay place to start. But leasing is a mainstream of my business, and some of my biggest deals have been leasing. You have to be able to do leasing and sales. They're 2 different things. But the easiest or the best way to cut your teeth in commercial would be to find a mentor, someone you really respect, maybe be able to join a team. And you're going to take a small percentage of the commission. And if you have the ability to learn and the willingness to learn, that's going to give you some credibility. It's probably a 4-year process before everybody in a market recognizes you and gives you the wide berth that they give to other people.
And probably not going to eat for the first 4 years.
You're going to have somebody in reserves, and you're going to have a plan of how you're going to get there. But you're going to work for a shred, and you're going to work long hours. That's the issue with people today. A lot of people do want an instant fix. People buy lottery tickets. People try different careers. This is my 3rd, 4th different career. Everyone's trying to find something that works quickly. And the biggest benefit here is, as you look at my accreditations, especially since 2010, I started in 1987, and it takes time to get to that level. It's not something that happens overnight.
Seems to be a common theme with many people that I speak with. It doesn't matter what industry it is. It's the level of commitment and consistency on a daily basis to do things that other people don't want to do for a very, very, very long time.
Absolutely.
That seems to be there. We just summed up what it takes in every business right there.
Yeah, I tell people in my office, a lot of people come to the office to get away from the house, waste time. We all procrastinate. I try and procrastinate less, but a lot of people leave the business. People are unsatisfied with what they're doing, and I tell people, if you're unsatisfied with the results, you have to look back on the effort you're putting in. It's probably a direct correlation there.
Yeah, I can see that. And even on the residential side, we see the same thing where how many people did I talk to today about buying and selling a piece of property? And it's a pretty simple thing, but very difficult to do on a consistent daily basis. Basically, you're a factory worker, developing relationships over time and having the same conversations on a daily basis.
Yeah, if you question yourself, if you're unhappy with where you are, you have to be honest with yourself about what you actually put into the engine or into the manufacturing model to turn out a finished product.
When you look at the commercial industry, the commercial real estate industry, will technology change how a deal's done in the future?
Technology has been the biggest additive to my business. I remember, I find it so funny. I watched Lloyd Robertson from the CTV National News talking about the information superhighway. And I thought, well, I'll be retired before this has any impact on our business. But I've always had a large group of friends, a sphere of influence, and a large group of clients. And I wasn't the person that did the handwritten cards or mail outs. I'm a person that did it by phone. So I can tell you about some previous cell phone bills that I had, but I always kept in touch with people. The internet through text and every other medium you can use has allowed me to have the footprint of Bigfoot. Every time when I had to record government data and get ID from people that I was dealing with, since FinTrack was involved, I recorded my clients' birthdays, their anniversaries. And that now I know when their daughter skinned their knee. I mean, everything is on Facebook or some other medium. And it allows me to touch people so many more times. There's people that want to be prodded by text and contacted in different ways. You have to know which way your client likes to be approached, and just keep rinse, repeat.
Rinse, repeat. Will there come a day where blockchain and big data will allow somebody to do a transaction without you?
That's probably one of the miracles of small market. Data providers aren't around in my market. They're focused on Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, perhaps in Vancouver, and there's no way they get into small town British Columbia. There's little interest for them to come to Winnipeg. I've done deals outside of my province. I've once sold a property without meeting the seller, the buyer, or visiting the property, but it was a bank and a post office, so it was pretty readily available rural property that could have been sold. But the face-to-face is really needed, and what I've grown to be able to do for my clients is to be that interpreter. And there are some people that you do a deal and have to pay you a commission. Most of the clients I have love paying commission.
Does they feel like they're protected through you?
They're getting a really high level of value. I focused on, after learning people, I learned documents, and I'm able to retain things. I have kept all the clauses I've ever written, and authored the offer to lease the Winnipeg Realtors uses, and co-authored the offer to purchase the Manitoba Real Estate Association offers. So they know that I'm knowledgeable. They know that I've retained things, that I've written a number of clauses, and that I'm fully up on documentation, and I've always felt that I'm there to protect them. If people don't take a shot, if they want to talk about properties and investigate properties, but never write an offer, it's not someone that's going to be a client of mine. If someone takes a shot and writes an offer and there's anything untoward on the investigation of the property, we run away together.
You know, I attempted to do one commercial lease deal. I hated it. You really have to know what you're doing. You can really hurt a client.
It's really two things. I lived in a bedroom community of Winnipeg, and a few close friends insisted I sell their house. And I told them, I says, it's not something that I do. I mean, I have people I would refer it to. If you want my name on it, absolutely. They'll still do all the work. They are two different things. I've seen very few people ever be able to transverse from residential to commercial real estate, as they're two completely different things. Residential gets the drug administered regularly, and we have to come to the office and smile and put our face on every day, whether or not we've been paid that month.
I understand that. I think for maybe only the top 3% of residential real estate agents get administered that drug frequently. 97% don't. When you look at, you know, as a successful commercial professional, what separates your success or someone who's attained the same level of success from somebody who is just not able to continue on in that sphere? There has to be something.
Every deal isn't a deal, and every phone call isn't a client. I've pride myself on being able to sift through the leads. Being at a largely residential office, I get a number of leads, and the people stop in a couple of times a week wondering how their deal is going. I says, go back and focus on your deals. You might do 5 deals before this is done, but you really want to be able to sniff out the people that are serious and going to follow through, and that's the real key, is identifying who the real people are, investing your time in them, giving them honest information. If you're always upfront with people like that, they may forget you for a couple of years, but they will come back to you after their next experience.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, when you start your year, do you have a goal in mind, or is it just something you already innately know that there's a certain amount of business that will happen that year?
Well, I start my year the same way every year. I get the invite from the Winnipeg Realtors to attend a forecast breakfast or luncheon, and I write my own forecasts. 2020. It's going to be great. I just change the year and I go about my business. But I cycle. Commercial deals take a period of time, and I always plan out where my business is going, how many conditional deals I have, what I have on the board. And at this point in my life, I also like to travel, and I book travel far in advance and pay more for it than other people. But I work towards holidays. And when I get in that 90-day window outside of a holiday, I know that it's time to go and get some listings and get some conditional deals on the board, where I can get the conditions removed before I leave. I was away from December 31st. Fortunately, I got my winter holidays in from December 31st to January 23rd. And again, from February 22nd to March 3rd. And was able to be top producer in the office in February by a mile.
It's phenomenal. Is there a certain amount of work that you do daily to keep your mindset in such a strong state? And it's okay. I'm just curious. I don't want to lead you, but is there something that you do to keep such a strong state?
I make, I think a lot of people might do this. I mean, I make a to-do list, much like a grocery list of the people that I need to touch, reach out, deals ongoing. Apple CarPlay and Bluetooth phones in my car has made a big difference in my business. I used to have a 45-minute drive to the office. I now have a 3-minute drive, and I listen to my rock and roll on the way in, and then the radio is off the rest of the day, and I'm making calls the entire time I'm driving to any appointment. As I scroll through people's names to call, I see other names. It reminds me of other people that I should touch, and I add to that. Now with the voice activation with Apple CarPlay, I'm immensely faster.
Is there anything on your podcast or your audio book or your book list that you're currently engaged in today that you think people should listen to or read?
I don't think I have an answer for that.
It's all good. All good. I'd like to go down to the COVID-19 road, if you don't mind. It's timely. It's, we chatted at length before we started recording about thought processes and COVID-19. And how are your current clients feeling about it? And what has been your advice to them through this process?
I think people are looking for information, and I've taken on quite a different role during this period. I say partially of being a counselor. I mean, some people just want to check in, and I'm sure people are checking in with their financial planner and wondering how things are going. And I think some people just want to hear that I picked up the phone and there's a voice on the other end of the line. We're in a very predictable market in Winnipeg. It's a little easier than big markets to be able to give people a forecast. Aside from that, I've also been able to hone my negotiation skills. I've been negotiating mortgage deferrals and rent deferrals for some tenants that just can't be open, with owners that have the ability to do that. These aren't widespread, and you're being a bit of a counselor and a negotiator. I had one showing this week, the other one canceled, and the other agent said, a client asked him to negotiate these rent deferrals. He goes, "That's not my job. That's absolutely my job. I am there for whatever my client needs." And I think during this time, which I truly feel is going to be extended, because there's an attitude of fear out there, and there's also an attitude of carelessness, which is what's going to have this last a lot longer than it should have. And I think people want to know that there's life on the vine. I've created with a business partner that I work with, what are the opportunities, who are the people we should be focusing on that we can sell to. And we're spending the rest of the time being available and being in contact for people. There are always opportunities with anything like this that happens. A really, really good example, a very bizarre example, but which companies have done well in this situation? And the one I really point out is Subaru. I saw a commercial on TV, and they go, "We usually advertise our cars," but they went in to thank the caregivers, and it was a 30-second ad that they're paying for. There's a number of related COVID-19 ads coming out these days. That was one of the things that they did. Secondly, when I walked in the house the other day, my wife was watching Ellen, as she sometimes does, and there was a young mother that had just been laid off in the audience, whose daughter had cerebral palsy, was never going to walk, and does walk, but she's been laid off, and she was on the show, and Subaru offered her, "Just go to your nearest dealership, you have a job, and we're giving you a $20,000 signing bonus." They're going to sell a lot of Subarus. And I'm always very optimistic. I mean, people are hearing when they're talking to me now, there's things to be concerned of. We have to be safe. But I'm very positive. And I think people are running into, they call their agent, and people are very negative. We're not going to make as much money in the next coming months, but the people that are there for people are going to come out of this making more money. There's going to be fewer agents in the future.
That has been the consensus of the top 1% of people that I'm speaking with in the industry, that now is the time. And if anyone's listening to this podcast, watching this video, now is the time where you're going to be judged. How you treat people through this process and how you show up is how you're going to be judged, and it will determine how you get through this and what's going to happen after this is over. Great
article on CNBC from Mark Cuban. I mean, the way employees treat their employers treat their employees will shape what their company looks like for decades. And the next 6 months and the next year after we come out of this situation is going to be the litmus test.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any advice for any commercial people outside your market, what they should be doing today for their clients and their respective rosters? Like, what should they do during this time?
Well, I think it's the same thing in any type of downturn. A lot of people are very negative and are quick to criticize things that are going on, whether it's a financial downturn or something like this. And I think that it's a time that you have to be potentially more available. I won't say when December hits or markets are slow, people go to the bar necessarily, but it's something that you have to be more available on. And you have to also watch your social footprint. Some people are stuck at home and are wanting to be at home every day and are making a different cocktail or eating or drinking every day. Is that what your client wants to see? Is that what they want to know what you're doing? I think I'm making myself more available. The first week was extremely quiet, and I didn't want to pace at the office, so I told my wife we're going to the lake. And I handled all the calls and all the emails and everything I needed to do from the lake. And definitely the first week was a week of understanding what we were into. Ever since that point, there are people that are going to the office that want to hear my voice. And fortunately, I've been able to pick up personally and not let it go to voicemail as often lately.
That's fantastic to hear. I think that's great advice. Going forward, how would someone reach out to you if they have any questions about the commercial real estate business and or maybe working with you out in Winnipeg?
Well, I Google really well, and to add to my business, I was on a milk carton as a child, so they can find me for sure. Mark Thiessen, Mark at markthiessen.ca, and I come up. I'm happy to answer any real estate questions as long as I have information in the market, or can find information, or can lead them to a person, or to just assure them of what different avenues can be. When I took the Herman Brain Dominance Institute test at Queen's University, it was quite funny. I had 4 scientist type people come into the room, and this is where my skill set comes from. They said, well, we don't think we've ever seen anyone score as low as you in the touchy-feely category, which is what you require to sell houses. And they said, but we're absolutely certain we've never seen anyone score as high as you in the creativity factor. And when it comes to problem solving, variations on a lease, this is why I love doing leases, because there's so many moving parts, so many different things that you can address. It can be an amortization of useful improvements to the building. It can be all kinds of things. And there's always a solution.
There's always a solution if 2 parties will agree to the solution.
You just keep throwing things at the wall and come up with more creative ideas, different ways to refinance properties. There's always a solution. I mean, the director type personality from the 4 personality types like to make their own decisions. So you throw out about 12 ideas and let them regurgitate one of yours and let it be theirs. So what you're saying, that's brilliant. And then they have their own idea. But
I think I'm going to have to look into this a little bit more.
It's something I've used and I've directed a lot of people to know who they're selling to. I have a very good client who owns a restaurant, and we are required to, and I'm a foodie too, but we are required to have 30 to 45 minutes of small talk about food and recipes before we commence any business. And let me tell you, there are other people that don't want to talk about the weather or have 1 minute of small talk. So you have to know who you're selling to. You have to be a chameleon, and you have to be able to change your colors.
You know, I agree with that completely. I know some trainers would say, just be yourself and you will attract your clients that are like yourself. And I think you have to be there for your client and meet them where they are, not where you are. You
have to be there to meet them on their level. And
wherever.
I used to have a residential realtor that I referred everything to because he was able to work with any situation that I gave him, no matter what it was. Someone moving into a home, siblings fighting over an estate. No matter where I sent him, he was the same as I was. He gave the people what they wanted, as opposed to formula sales.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I really appreciate you sharing. And if someone listens to this, there is a lot inside this. And I'm sure when you re-listen to it again, there's some amazing nuggets of information. Some of my takeaways currently are, to be in the commercial real estate business, you have to be very educated. You have to really know and be able to speak a different type of language, because your clientele they're all over the map. They're huge, large, sophisticated companies to small mom pop shops. And you have to be able to communicate in such a way that leaves whoever you're communicating with feeling confident in your abilities. Secondly, you have to have a lot of patience to be in this business. A lot of patience, right? You're not going to get that fulfillment every single day. So you have to really enjoy the process of being in the business of commercial real estate, because the end result, which is a deal, is not going to happen every single day. And those are some of my strong takeaways today. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me on, Richard. I really appreciate it.
I do. Thank you again. Good luck with the market out there. And if I can ever help you in any way, Mark, please let me know.
I will.
Thanks again. Have an amazing day.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you've heard and you're interested in seeing if you are fit to work with Peak Results Academy, here's what I want you to do next. Head over to peakresultsacademy.com/call. That's peakresultsacademy.com/call and book an appointment to speak with our team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, what do you really want out of life and your business? Number 2, what is not working for you today? And number 3, the exact strategy you should be using to create massive change in these areas. Remember, changing your life and creating massive results does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen. We're helping clients all over the world create peak results in their health, in their businesses, and in their personal lives. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to peakresultsacademy.com/call. We'll chat soon.